Okay, we are live here at the Inappropriate Earl podcast studios, and I may have the toughest guest to be on this podcast. I mean, arguably, Don Fry. Be a good fight between these two guys. The great star of The Mandalorian, star of Waco, star of Westworld, UFC alumni. Dude, if you're going to talk, you got to speak into the mic. I'm telling this guy who could kill me what to do. Folks, give it up for the amazing Tait Fletcher.
I didn't know that I had to. He was waiting for me to grab the mic, and I had no idea. I was trying to Instagram, That's the same thing with my driving.
Well, I mean, you can do what you want, frankly, because you're a big guy. You don't know your own strength.
I want to know right now, before we get going, what do you think of this Caveman Coffee hibiscus tea?
I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to get it from the fridge. Keep talking. Just say
all right.
anything.
Well, we just got this. I asked because we just launched this last week, and it's phenomenal. I haven't been able to stop drinking them. They're fucking delicious.
We get right to the plugs.
So zero caffeine. No plugs, baby. This is just lifestyle. I'm trying to put you up on game.
Well, this is helping your company out because I've told you.
Look at you. You got brass knuckles for a microphone holder.
This is my only sponsor of the Inappropriate Earl podcast. The singer from Rat, Stephen Piercy, has a company called Mike Knuckles. And he graciously gave me a few pairs. Stephen Piercy of Rat, star of the new Geico commercial.
You're buddies with all those guys, right?
I'm only buddies with him, to be honest.
What about Iron Maiden?
Iron Maiden, I met Bruce Dickinson, the singer, once.
And his kid's got a band, right?
It's possible. I'm not a huge Maiden guy.
Yeah.
Although I will say they put on an amazing show for guys their age.
Phenomenal, man.
I'm Kiss.
This TV is amazing. You got me. I mean, we can't not
TV.
talk. We can't not talk about it.
We also have an elliptical there, so I can keep my beautiful body up.
This is what wealth looks like. I just haven't been around this before.
No, this is not what wealth looks like. Wealth is Rogan's crib.
Generational wealth from basically the only royal family that America's ever known, right?
I just took my first.
Those are beautiful. Are those Adidas?
Sip. Yes, they are. Dita eyewear, sparkling hibiscus.
These also are Dita. Are we sponsored by Dita for this?
I wish. These were $600 frames.
Cheap ones.
Well, they are.
Right. I know. I mean, that's the thing. They're expensive as fuck.
Wealth is relative, I think.
Okay.
Like wealth.
Like your relatives are wealthy?
Skankles have more money than the Kennedys.
Is that right?
Let's just get that.
Are you guys from drug dealing also, or what? Where'd you guys get yours?
It's a great story.
Okay.
Because it shows you the intuitiveness of my grandfather, who I never met because he died in a plane crash. My grandfather used to drive around in the Depression era by oil refineries, and he would notice they would throw away their waste. It'd be the equivalent of driving.
Are you telling me he's John Rockefeller?
No, this is...
is your grandpa John Rockefeller? Because that's his story, right?
James Kennedy, James Skakel's dad, my dad's dad.
Was he a Skakel also?
My dad's dad? I hope so. I could be adopted, though.
I was curious.
He would go up to these oil refineries and go, hey...
It's just because the Kennedys and the Skakel, I mean, they're generationally very good-looking people, but you're so good-looking, it's just like it makes me question whether you're really legitimately...
I work at it.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I'll show you upstairs later.
I'm good.
Moisturizers.
Yeah, I don't need that.
5 or 6 hair pomades.
So good without that. Thanks. I shave.
But some people have to work at being good looking. Some don't.
I wake up like this.
But you're a great looking dude.
Thanks.
And, I have to, work at it.
Well, we all, I think, are fighting the good fight here.
But I had a black friend of mine at the gym I used to work at.
I have a hard time believing that.
No, his name was Lenny. I'll never forget. This guy had the most physically gifted body I've ever seen on a man. Didn't work out. Never lifted a weight.
Yeah.
He looked like a junior Overeem.
You see that sometimes, like guys that are just naturally gifted with just fucking, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, yeah, I did 3 push-ups when I was 14.
Yeah, this was Lenny. Yeah. I mean, bicep peaks.
This is crazy. We're looking at the protest right now.
Yes, this is audio only podcast, but I always have the TV.
Yeah, we're just
on.
looking at the TV though too.
For you Instagram livers, we're watching the riots. This is not the Stanley Cup Finals.
It is so much going on right now. Elon Musk just fired a couple people up into space, and it's kind of pales in comparison to what's going on in the world right now. I don't even really think about that very much.
I mean,
we're living such different existences depending on who you are and what you look like. It's fucking wild.
Some people are prospering, others are,
Dude, no, everybody's fucked. I mean, this is going to break everybody. This stuff right now, this hypnotism that people are doing with the masks. We're quarantining healthy people. Why do you quarantine healthy people? That's insane.
But
and so then you crush anybody that has a business. And now you're saying right now, like I've got some businesses that restaurants, bars, you can't, but you can't keep your employees on. You have to let your employees go. And who has such a fat margin in their profits that they can go, yeah, we can keep 30% capacity and continue going. You're just going to, all these businesses that have been strong enough to hang on for the last 2 months with zero business. Well, we're going to just strangle them to death over the next 3 months, this crazy reopening. And so then you got to go, okay, is the cure of this distancing way worse than what the PR firm that was behind COVID being the most dangerous thing we're ever going to see that just never turned out that way? What's going on? What's your take? Go ahead.
Well, whose podcast is this? I like it when the guest talks more than I do. My take.
I've never, in my defense, I've never heard your podcast before.
I don't blame you,
and so I wouldn't know how it goes. I'm just trying to catch up with you. I'm sorry.
I pattern it. And
I certainly don't mean to be. I defer to your greatness. I don't mean to.
Listen, if I was great, I'd be in a podcast studio, and
I love this studio, dude. We're all at home right now.
I pattern my podcast after Rogan's from the standpoint of I love how he has guests of he could just have UFC fighters on and athletes, but he has one day he'll have David Lee Roth on and then a scientist the next day. One day he'll have a friend on, Duncan Trussell or you, and then the next day somebody's never met before. So I try and have interesting. You think I could just have
It's cool. I just think it's like, the job is kind of, can you cultivate a conversation, right, that holds interest?
Yeah. The last episode was about the Jeffrey Epstein documentary.
I only have seen the first, I think, 2 episodes of that.
I mean, the guy was out of control, but then the episode before that was about suicide and depression with a comic friend of mine, and which was actually the day before we did that, an LA comic committed suicide. So and now with you, I'm
crazy.
I mean, yeah, it's in the best of times, comics are suicidal at times. So I can only imagine not having the ability to perform, which is a creative outlet for your sadness is
and then also to not be able to connect.
Yeah.
Right. You can't hug, you can't sit with people.
I'm afraid to, like, even when you came in, I was like, well, gee, I want to hug him because I love him. But you
don't know what anybody's ethos is around it. Everybody's, my mother's having a different experience than I am. She's very worried about it in ways that I don't find it to be a threat, but the ways that I do see it to be a threat, she doesn't see it to be it. So it's an interesting time because we're living in different realities simultaneously, which is it's a trip. It's a psychological trip right now.
I mean, I'm 51, so that's around the age that was the sweet spot for this disease when it first started happening. And then it was like younger people started getting it. So, and then older people were getting it. And, I'm cautious.
The aggregate though is late 70s, early 80s that have died.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the vast majority.
I think if you're guys like you and me who are healthy and have no predetermined,
your chances are, what is it, 99.8% chance of surviving it?
Yeah, I think
if you're an otherwise healthy human.
But my sister's husband has it. But he has severe MS.
And then why is it so bad too? I mean, you hear some people get it and they're like, I thought it was allergies and it was gone in a couple of days, and they get tested and they've had it. And that was the only thing they could point towards. Some people have virtually no symptoms. It's like this varied response is puzzling too. And then I talked to nurse friends of mine that are in hospitals in New York City, and they say people are dying in ways. They're like, it's not the flu. They call it that to blanketly say something, but it shuts down different systems in the body, robs the oxygen from the blood. So you just watch people slowly drown over 20 hours. Insane.
But I know a few comics who were very sick in December, and it was probably, looking back, they might have had it back then, when it wasn't really a thing till February. But who knows when this thing got here? I don't even think people know. Like, there's so many. To me, I liken it when AIDS first was a thing.
That's what they made it out to be.
And I'm not trying to be funny. Like, at first, AIDS was a gay disease because it was only showing up in bathhouses.
That's where the first litmus test of here's a wild group of us out here doing all the crazy parties. It was a group that was ripe to get that. Is that the idea?
Well, I mean, back then it was the technology,
because you're not sleeping very much, you're partying a lot. There's
unprotected sex, drug use, but then you knew a bisexual man. The
big ride of the 70s, sexual revolution that happened. So it was it was the culmination of all that.
But you had that one bisexual guy slept with an infected gay man, and then the bisexual guy.
Are you telling me the history of AIDS right now?
Well, no, I'm just saying how when it first started happening,
Are you telling me a personal story?
Yeah, I have it. No, I'm just kidding. That's why I don't wear condoms. I can't catch it twice. But then the bisexual guy sleeps with a straight woman.
Right.
She sleeps with a straight man, and then straight people can get it. Like, how's this work? And and
I didn't really know a lot of straight people that got it that weren't needle abusers.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. I know a few people who were straight, and they slept with.
But I know a lot of people that got AIDS and cleaned their lives up, like changed their lives radically, and still alive.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the
which is heartening because he used to think it was a death sentence.
Right.
And the way the fear and hysteria works in the media is like that. It's like that right now.
Yeah.
It's like this is all fear and hysteria, just like the way AIDS was. And then what happened also during AIDS? The fucking cure, the guys that had enough money to go into hospitals and get the cure died. A lot of those guys getting treated in the late 80s, early 90s, they died because of the cure. Same thing with intubation. In here, we killed a bunch of people in the hospitals because they didn't open up the intubation to be anything. It came back to itself. Sorry, I'm so distracted now by the news. Jesus Christ.
I don't watch the news.
Savage.
I'm waiting for the UFC prelims to come on. Then
Can't wait.
Switch over.
I can't wait. I'm not going to look anymore.
There's too many cards. I don't know I didn't even know there was a card.
What do you like about the fights tonight?
To be honest with you, I only watch for the heavyweight fights, and I know Ivanov, I think is his name. He's fighting another guy I've never heard of, but I love the heavyweights. Are
they really going to have an island where they go and fight, do you think?
Well, it's who knows?
Is that Epstein's Island, do you think?
Well, it's available.
I mean, is it for sale?
It's available, and you probably get a good deal on it. That guy was out of control. So many people helped him too. Like that was the one takeaway, and I won't spoil it. I mean, the ending, but
Do they go into that about how he was murdered? I mean, suicided?
Right.
I mean, whatever you call it.
I mean, I don't want to get into Tripoli and Bravo territory, but I do believe he was murdered. And I'm not a.
But no, I just did the documentary
delve into it. They call in Dr. Michael Baden and Cyril Weck, who were the preeminent. Pathologists, they were on the OJ trial.
I think they called him in for George Floyd also.
Yeah. Well,
I heard that today.
That's like, that's it.
That's the thing. I hear these fucking apologist people. There's a dude I was talking to, and he goes, yeah, but did you see the autopsy report, the preliminary one? I go, no.
On Epstein?
No, on Floyd. And he goes, and he sends them to me, and I go, it's just this it's like apologist bullshit. Like said, oh, well, he had pre-existing heart conditions and emphysema or something and was on drug. I was like, it's so fucking offensive to even bring that goddamn information up. It's fucking insane.
It's called having your carotid artery.
It's so it's all that stuff where they're like, you shouldn't run from fucking save all that shit, man.
Because
that's fucking time's over. You can't talk loose like that anymore.
But I mean, that was like what happened to Floyd. Was like if you put a chokehold on me for 8 minutes,
it's insane, bro.
You could kill me.
No, bro, not even that.
Kill me.
I could kill you easily. We know that. But I mean, I could pick the ways. Whatever I want to do to you, I can. But my fact, the point is like the other part of that is there's 2 other men on that guy. So he's completely smothered. His abdomen, his chest, and his neck. We're only seeing the neck. Like for fucking 8 minutes. Jesus Christ, man.
Which is,
I couldn't believe because I can understand a lot of the chokes. We see Eric Garner get killed, and those guys, they're fat, shitty, out of shape cops that don't have any skill sets. They're just grotesque movers. They're abysmal fucking humans on every level, and they're inflamed. And those are dangerous people. People with power that are inflamed with zero skill sets. That's a dangerous motherfucker. And so you got guys like that are out there. This guy though, that killed George Floyd, he was fucking just dead set, quiet eyes, just calm. Like to sit there without emotion like that. That's somebody that's not subject to their emotions being riled up, and you can be like they weren't thinking straight. He was having all the thoughts.
Would you say
intentional?
The likelihood of him being bullied in high school?
My question is it premeditated? Did he want to? I mean, what are we seeing? It's insane.
I mean, it's thank God someone was filming. I mean, just to this.
And how horrific to be there to view that, to film it, and to know that if you walk up, you'll be shot. You're watching a man get murdered by the state, by people that are sworn to protect our citizens. It's fucking insane.
I mean, what do you think not the cure, but
I think the only
better for cops?
No, you don't. They're not. It's not like there's a guidebook that says, "Hey, I'm a shitty cop," or here's the guidebook of how to be shitty to people or whatever. It's that we.
But there must be.
It's permissive. It's a cultural permissive thing. And so if you're in a police department where you have to rely upon other people, I mean, you all kind of have to fucking cover for each other. And at some point, if a guy is really racist in his heart and is a fucking white supremacist piece of shit, and he goes out and hurts people, and you kind of know that about him, a lot of those guys, I bet, get let slide because nobody wants to rock the boat behind the blue line. And because of that, if you're not willing to stand up and you're the good guys, I think that, I mean, Jesus Christ, man, they could be solved right there if you change that culture. But culturally, clearly, it's acceptable. I mean, you watch the videos that come out after this in New York City. I mean, cops are hitting people with cars. They're fucking throwing small women, guys my size, get throwing 100-pound women into the curbs just for nothing, being horribly, just ghost spraying everybody outside the car in Minnesota with pepper spray, just crowds shooting bullets into reporters and into people with cameras, shooting rubber bullets. Like the list goes on and on and on. You could shut that out right now as a cop if you change the culture of it. And I think to change our culture of it, it's not about, I mean, I hear Killer Mike and I hear guys like this talk about you got to go out and vote and you got to change the DA if the DA did your man dirty. All that, I'm with all that. But to me, it's like deeper, and I don't know how to undo it except to culturally show and represent everybody in entertainment as equal and equitable integers that can be interchangeable anywhere, instead of only typifying Black, Hispanic as thug in these horrible lights that we do. I mean, you can't name an Asian lead right now. You can't say Bobby Lee. There's just nobody. It's like we don't have equity in that realm. And if we don't have it there where people aspire to and they dream about, because that's what people mimic, right? They mimic that. They don't mimic their shitty parents. They mimic what they see in entertainment on TV. And we don't know one another. And so until everybody gets to have their stories told out there, I don't think there's a togetherness, because this all looks like the other. And that's what I think that I don't know. It seems like there's an entity that's creating people to look at each other as the other. I feel like I just really hijacked your fucking podcast.
No, I love it,
in a horrific way.
Because it's not hijacking at all. I mean, I guess my question.
And so I just sit and watch. You watch it, right?
Well, what can you do? I mean,
I think you breathe. I mean, and a lot of times I think when you have chaos, you find out how to find an inner breath so that you're not making an emotional decision. You have to calm yourself in order to be analytical about it, so you can move smartly and correctly. And to move while you're full of emotion isn't always the best way. It often leads to future chaos. And so I think that's one of the things, is learning to control ourselves so that you can regroup and talk about how to make a tactical assessment about where you want to go next. And if you're one of these leaders in culture, I think guys are doing that right now, and they're having that discussion.
I mean,
but it sure seems like there's a lot of evil forces at work against that kind of discussion.
Well, it's just it's so hard to take the emotion out of it, and especially if you're African American and you see Garner and you see this and Rodney King and
take all that out of it. Talk about having to talk to your young black child about how people are going to look at you as if you're bad. Like you got to tell children this because they're going to come across quiet racism that they don't understand. That you've got to give a glossary of terms to these crazy undercurrents of emotions that we're all fucking affected by, man. And then not only that, but you got to tell them how high the stakes are if they get pulled over by a cop. And my dad, it was one of the few talks that we had that he really imparted on me the danger of the police, and it's for a lot of different reasons. But that's a conversation we had to have. And you shut up, you don't say anything, you ask for a lawyer, and like that's the way you behave with the police. You just do as they say. You don't offer resistance, and you ask for a lawyer, and don't say anything. Hold your mud, no matter what. Great advice. But it's a way different conversation if I'm a black kid and he has to have that conversation because the stakes are so fucking high that even if I do everything right, I might end up at Rikers Island or with a bullet in me or something for getting pulled over. I mean, we hear stories about it all the time. It can't go unspoken. To believe that it's not prevalent is to not acknowledge it. And to not acknowledge it is almost to condone it. And it's almost worse than that because you're not even... How do we even start to get better if we can't all acknowledge, like, yes, this is a thing that's present. If we can't acknowledge the what is of it, it seems really hard. So those people I don't know how to talk to when I come into contact with them online or wherever. I mean, most of those fuckers don't deserve a voice. So it's, interesting times.
Well, I think especially now the cops, like I walk the dog really late at night and, I'm obviously pretty white and, this is primarily a white neighborhood. And you could tell he'd look at me like, I hope this guy does something. I mean, they're jonesing right now for action. No, I'm not even like trying to be funny because it's a serious. Yeah. But you could tell they see this guy walking the dog with his white girlfriend and Chandler's, pretty demure and white. And you could tell like, God, I hope he mouths off to us. I hope like. So I can't imagine what it feels like to be black or Hispanic.
And I can't imagine what it feels like to be a cop right now. I mean,
and there's a lot of
all
good
of that too, right? It's like the whole thing is so fucking layered. I mean, and that's what I hate too, is that you've got to, it's weird. Like if you're looking at high yielding, entities, societies, kind of cultures, you're looking at people that are constantly talking about the shortcomings so they can clean them up and they can get to the goal quicker, right? The less shortcomings I have, the better. So the more critical we are of one another and our shortcomings, it begets us to a better place at a more aggregated rate. The point being that if I'm only there to butter you up and tell you what a great job you've been doing and how wonderful you are and all your assets. Yeah, you're supposed to be all that. The parts that I need you to excel at are this. So people in high functioning societies like that, they push each other to that end and they don't need to be coddled a lot and get a lot of attaboys, right? And the same thing, man, we choose our jobs and everybody likes attaboys and you've got to be heralded for the good things, but it's so easy to not be looked at as shit if you don't look away from when your partners are doing horrific fucking things. I mean, that's one of the most horrible things that we see about the Floyd George instance is that there's guys that are bystanders that are feeling the body of the man, feeling him quake, feeling all that. And they're there to protect us. And they die right there underneath him. Like, Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah, it's, the video really brings it home, just for 8 minutes, the guy's being tortured. And the cop, I don't know the cop's name, probably not even worth mentioning.
I think it's Devereaux.
He doesn't seem to have a care in the world.
And he doesn't even look like his heartbeat is racing.
Yeah, he's looking at the guy filming or girl. I don't know if it was a guy or a girl.
The guy filming is there. Well, there's a guy that's there that's a young jiu-jitsu student. And he's going, that's a blood choke. You're on his neck. And he says, and from the angle I could only see him. I didn't know there was 2 men behind him.
Right. Yeah, I didn't either.
And I didn't either until I saw another camera angle. And he says, when I said that's a blood choke, it's like he looked at me like he knew just what he was doing. And then he just went back. He just ignored me. And I can't imagine sitting there knowing looking at something like that, not being able to pull that guy off him because you know if you intervene, you're going to be shot to death. Like, and these are people that are supposed to be helping us. It's
and all that for a forged check. I mean, it's a serious
for
crime.
a forged check.
Like it seems like there's a little exuberant in their excitement of taking this guy down.
Yeah,
like
we
that.
have to change the idea of what we think equality looks like.
But do you think it's also how they're trained? I mean, I'm sure.
I think it's also because the elections are coming up, and I don't know that it's trained. I think you give anybody power, and it's a heavy crucible to hold. Power is, and if you're unskilled at it, if it's maybe this is your first time in having to yield power like that, and especially if you don't quite merit it yet. Fuck, now you know that causes a lot of problems for people, and it's a tremendous amount we ask a police officer to do. And so I think without experience, it's really hard to make great choices probably because it's such a hot zone, and so you got to have some latitude. And if you only have bad examples, though, fuck, man, now you're getting trained while you're getting experiences in a poor way. And so that's worse. And I don't know if that's what's happening or not, but I mean, I just kind of liken it to what good training and bad training is in jiu-jitsu or something like that. You can,
but I can already see
you can detract from somebody's skill set.
But I think the defense will always, hey, it's not his fault. That's how he was trained. It's like, come on, man. Like,
it's unacceptable.
It's like what
it's unacceptable.
Did for Rodney King. That's how they're trained. It's like, come on, 6 of you beating the guy up with batons.
Yeah.
And so it'll be. I'm sure the trial will be very divisive.
Man,
this country needs anymore.
Do you know if they arrested the other 3 guys yet?
I don't believe they have. I know the main guy's in jail and $500,000 bail, which I can see some rich racist guy. Hey, I'll get him off.
Have you heard anything about the agent provocateurs that were there, like the guy in the black umbrella with the gas mask that had the hammer and was breaking the windows and started the fires in Minneapolis?
No, I haven't. I mean,
so there's all these guys that kick the riots off that are like, tactical looking white dudes and like completely covered with black umbrellas. Real crazy. Anyway.
Yeah, there's so much going on.
Yeah.
Like you don't even know, like.
Yeah, I don't know all the subtexts of all this movie that we're in right now.
I mean, and it's starting to branch out into West Hollywood and other areas where, like, Red Band just posted that Joe's Pizza, the window was broken, and Joe's is a comic staple for late night. I was walking the dog on Melrose, a huge storefront window, rock thrown through it. So it's starting. They'll start to get serious when it starts invading this part of town,
right?
And then, I know downtown LA was a hot stove. It's
such a money embedded political hot zone that now, there's people on either side that, there's some people that it behooves them to have chaos like that in the street. And so then they go and conspire to make that happen. I don't know that it's all protest, a lot of different powers that are struggling against each other right here.
Oh, there's people like Al Sharpton. He'll get in and, and take advantage of this for his own gain. And, if this was a white guy getting choked, you wouldn't see Al Sharpton going, this is outrageous. So there's people like that. And
it's different.
Oh, absolutely.
And I mean, it's like saying I had a lot of bad brushes with police. That's 100% the way I behaved, right? I was in that life. And so we had a lot of wrecks like that with cops. But if I'd have been an honor student or something, I wouldn't have that same experience. But you've got to recognize the fact that if I were black, it would make no goddamn difference what my choices were on how I was treated by the state and establishment. It's fucking different.
But the difference with you is if that cop tried to put you in that hold.
How about that? What do you think I do when cops talk to me? I do whatever the fuck they say, man, because I know how bad they can hurt me. And I'm not trying to talk to somebody that's hyped up or that I don't want to make their decisions any harder to make. I want them to keep me safe.
But I would say, at least in your case,
but I don't have an expectation that I'm going to be killed if I relinquish myself to them.
But I'm just saying, at least you could defend yourself a little better.
Now, once you're handcuffed, that's the first thing we do when we're talking to cops. You get linked up, and now we're in a different position, right?
Well, I would imagine they would call for backup with you.
I mean, you're talking about it's not a comedy.
Oh no, it's
I mean, there's not a fight. There's just no sense in that. And that's not, I mean, yeah, I think about that. I'm watching that video and I'm running. Do you run up and kick him in the head? That's my instinct, right? To kick that cop in the fucking head.
but then
then I'm dead. And then I go, maybe I got to die. Like, I don't know that I can live knowing that I might be watching a live murder right now. It puts you in a horrible position.
Because when he was getting cuffed,
what is this?
Well, Trump is out of control. Like, he's not exactly helping the situation with some of his tweets. But you know,
the unlimited power of our military. He does some dangerous talk. He's got a horrible style, that guy.
You know,
he doesn't present himself very well.
If he would just shut up, people would like him a lot more.
I think that but
he's not going to shut up. He's 71.
Nobody argues with his policies as much as they argue with the way he presents himself. He's just horrible.
I think if he could just rein it in a little bit, but he's not. He's not. It's not going to.
He has kind of reined it in during this, and then the last 4 days he's really ramped up a lot. I like that he gave all the states power. I think that's the right move. Because everything is, I mean, in different areas, different things are happening and different things are important. The only people that know that are the locals. So I love that. Less federal power, fucking give them power to the states.
But like when that lady got, about 2 years ago, she got ran over by the white supremacist in the Dodge Charger when the Charger.
Right, yeah.
And Trump said something to the effect of, hey, he was a bad guy, but there's bad people on the other side too. It's like, dude, that's not
right.
Almost kind of giving that guy
this thing saying that once the looting starts, the shooting starts, man. That's a threat, bro. You can't say what the fuck.
That's the president saying that shit. So I just wish
these guys have "help us, don't hurt us" signs on, and they're anyway. Interesting.
And I do feel bad for the good cops, because now they're.
Who are most of them? It only takes 5% of people to make your whole shit look fucking like garbage.
And now
it's so important. And that's the thing about being quiet. That's why it's a problem, is because that small percentage is, if they're being loud, you can't hear anything else. You have to cut that cancer out.
Yeah. I mean, I had a friend of mine, he was LAPD, and he asked to be in the Inglewood Police Department. I'm like, why would you ask to be in that, high crime area? He's like, I just want to fuck with blacks. And
shitting me.
And that's not the word he used.
Yeah, of course.
I think you can.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, like, why would what? So there are, I would say 5% of cops are bad. It may be more, but. Now these poor guys are paying.
Well, and then you get put in a horrible position if you're a police officer, because now you're pitted against the public. It's horrible. These guys are in an awful spot. That girl keeps getting hit in her vagina with a nightstick. My goodness.
I think I know her. All right, let's get to happier times.
All right.
We're going to switch.
I can't believe you have this on your television. Jesus
Well, I like for my guests
Christ.
to be entertained. I'm visually stimulated.
Terrified.
Like, we could turn the TV off.
No, this is good. Just even there, that's smaller. That's all right.
And we're going to go to the...
Why did they all have masks on at the UFC weigh-ins? Historically, they haven't done it since COVID's way has hit us. But now I noticed everybody had masks on. Is that... because of the UFC saying that, or is that everybody's choice? Because they're all heavily tested. Everybody at that party's been tested over and over again the last bunch of months.
I mean, I don't mind.
Or weeks.
It's so hard to talk about, stupid stuff like UFC and hockey after what we've been talking about. I kind of like it with no crowd.
I do too.
You hear the punches.
I think it's way better. And it's not. I mean. Part of that is I don't think I think it's cooler. I think it's cool. They go in dead silence. They do their thing. It's almost like more personal and intimate and gentlemanly. I like it a lot.
Although I will say with Ferguson and Gaethje, I think Ferguson thrives off the crowd. And there was that one point where he was under fire from Gaethje, and I think if the crowd would have been there, he might have performed a smidge better. And then there's other guys like. Gaethje seems like he doesn't need a crowd to perform better.
Yeah.
He's just an assassin.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. He's there to do that job. And I think that also is so heavy for Tony. I mean, he was absorbing so many shots that to just keep going physically, it's like it's hard to recover from that. Your timing gets shot. I mean, and things, if they're just a hair off in the microcomputer, you're not going to make your shots. And that just started happening more and more as the rounds progressed.
And I think the crowd would have, he seems like he needs that, the roar of the crowd to get him out of certain situations, get that extra smidge of adrenaline. So it'll be interesting, like in hockey. Like, I'm interested when the team sports come back. Because how do you have the hockey players on a bench? Like, if you really go 6 feet, like,
how do you have a New York subway?
Yeah, or
I mean, that's the thing that's so troubling is that, like, we're supposed to believe that our immune system doesn't work anymore, and that's not the way to do. Like, it's just a weird time.
But take the NFL. You've got 53 guys on the roster.
They're going to go ahead with it, right? Didn't they say they're as scheduled? They have games going. They're not stopping.
But on the sideline, if you have 53 players, probably, let's say 30 coaches, and then
there's that many coaches.
Well, there's assistants,
trainers, all that. Yeah.
So you've got let's say 80 combined coaches, players, and then you've got team staff. Doctors, ball boys,
media.
What's the sideline? The sideline is going to go from the locker room to the other locker room, and I don't. In hockey, you've got
or how many of those guys become non-essential, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess you don't need a ball boy, I guess, but
boy, these are big boys.
Yeah, I mean, they're showing, for those of you not able to see my TV right now, we're watching the heavyweight co-main event. They're doing the highlights. I think one guy's ranked 13th and the other guy is around 10th. So it's kind of a weird co-main event with two guys who aren't in the top 10. But, I guess not every week you can have Overeem.
Do you think they have a certain amount of fights they're obligate to put out for ESPN, I would imagine.
Yeah.
So you're just throwing a lot of fights together. And then you've got guys that have signed that you want to give them a chance to earn money, I would imagine, too.
I mean, I get you need to have a lot of cards. I just, as a fan, I think there's too many cards.
Right, but they want to hype them up. For the big names, they want to hype those up so much. Andre Arlovski.
He was. I think he won his last fight. That's crazy to me. He still fights.
I mean, savage. He's one of the oldest. He and Diego, right? Diego's probably the oldest ultimate fighter.
If you count Overeem's Pride days.
Yeah. What a different animal.
Well,
and the first time he fought in Pride, that
build
is crazy, dude. Yeah, totally.
Like 205,
lanky, long arms, great guillotine chokes,
and then the horse meat.
Well, yeah, that'll happen.
Well, you would know this more than I would. I heard in Pride, let's just say they weren't exactly stringent.
They encouraged the fuck out of you to dope there.
Because a guy like Bob Sapp,
I feel like he already had a diet going into it, Pride, but they probably streamlined that, to get a particular result. He got. Do you know how he got famous over there?
No.
He was with like TNT Wrestling, one of those wrestling things that when they were over there, they got bankrupt. And so he was caught in Japan with no job. And so he started driving the morgue van bodies from the Air Force Base to the morgue. And that became his job while he was in Japan. And then he saw a flyer about, you want to do a Tough Man. Remember the Tough Man contest? Tough Man contest for your listeners back in the day. Tough Man contest was a thing. I think the guy was out of Michigan maybe, but he said, I got sick of hearing the guys at the bar watching fights, watching, Holyfield fight or something going, I could do this or that. And he goes, oh, really? So I got all the tough guys in all the towns. And if you're a tough guy, come and box. And they set up like a boxing match against other so-called tough guys from the town. And you could be
like
the tough.
Knuckle.
I think boxing matches, kind of like 3-minute boxing matches. And a lot of guys just saw how out of shape they were is what that produced a lot of. But anyway, there was one of those that was getting thrown in Japan. And they needed somebody to fight Refrigerator Perry, William Perry from the Chicago Bears.
Right.
I don't know, 300 and some pound or 400, but huge guy. And so Bob Sapp, they debuted him, and he was a huge guy. He used to play football and socked him up, and he became Godzilla to the Japanese people and became an instant hero. And so they swept him up and cultivated him into being, Bob Sapp, the fighter. And then also his biggest fights were as a kickboxer.
He had some legit wins over who was it, Peter
Ertz.
Yeah.
He fought a bunch of guys. I don't but he was, I mean, so big and so savage that it's just like it's hard to stop. But like Michael McDonald fought him, who's like maybe a 220 pounder, maybe, but fuck, he can move, man. And Bob would get tired really easily. And that's what we found in fights too. But he has crazy stories about Russian mob chasing him, trying to get fights, like, because they're like, well, we owed taxes that we never paid on your last 8 fights or something. And so you're going to fight this guy tonight. And it was some killer like Bojanchik or somebody like that. And he's like, I'm not going to fight him for nothing. I need my $2 million or whatever. He goes, no, we're going to pay all the old taxes with that. And you're going to fight for free tonight. And he's like, I bounced from the arena and they fucking chased me. Got, crazy, like in the Netherlands, I think.
Like, what would be the strategy to fight Bob Sapp just to try and get him?
Oh, easy. Take him to the, single leg, drag it. I mean, yeah.
Just because.
And run it and put him on his back. You don't want to get hit by him.
How hard does he hit?
I can't imagine. But that's so much mass. He's so big, dude. Bob Sapp, to your listeners, we're talking, you should Google him because you're looking at a guy. It's hard to know until he's standing in front of you, but he's not super tall, maybe 6'6", but he's like 400 pounds with a 6-pack. Like ripped, shredded, like crazy, dude. His hammer fists, he beat dudes like where they're still feeling the beating today. The Nogueira fight, it's crazy. Anyway, yeah.
But his endurance
is not good.
I heard he used to tell promoters, listen, you got me for 2 minutes.
Yeah, you got me for a round. Well, that's why that one kickboxing, the heavyweight Grand Prix and all that, they were so great for him because it was just like 2-minute rounds, and it was these monsters that would go and just bang for 3 hard 2-minute rounds, or maybe they were 3-minute rounds, but it's something like that. It was real tight.
I mean, he reminds me of my favorite heavyweight boxer from the 70s, Tex Cobb, who kind of had followed your path into the acting world. He in his case, he became famous for getting.
Was he in any which way but loose, or
no? But close though. He got famous for his fight with Larry Holmes, in which he basically, it was kind of like the Rocky. He just wanted to see if he could last, and he didn't throw many punches, and he just laughed at Larry the whole fight. And Larry Holmes, this is like before Tyson. Like Larry Holmes was,
and his goal was just to survive. Take the shots, and that was like, he's like, I want to stand in that fire and see what that's like.
Because he was,
but he wasn't trying to win.
I mean, he might say he wasn't trying to win, or you know.
I mean, are you saying that he was saying I was outclassed and I just wanted to survive, or is he saying, oh, I could have won, but I chose not to, and just see if he could take me out?
He might say he was trying to win, but I think it was like Stallone. I know Rocky's a fictional movie, but I think he wanted to see if he could last with Larry Holmes the full fight. And then he was a world-class kickboxer. So he was actually probably better at kickboxing than he was boxing.
Had to be very hard for him to fight in a boxing fight then and know he's got these other weapons that he can't utilize. Right. It's frustrating.
And then he kind of followed your path of, what was he in? He was in the Gene Hackman War movie, and then Raising Arizona, I think, is probably his...
With Nicolas Cage.
He played like the biker trying to...
It's been 48 years.
Yeah, he was in Miami Vice and all that stuff. So we're going to get into your acting now.
Oh, are we? All right.
What was the first gig you got post UFC?
No, not post. It was pre.
Oh, really?
Yeah, man.
So you did acting before you did...
So I'm working at a nightclub in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and I'm running a security group there, and I'm not a professional fighter at that time. I just had started, I'd fought the Dog Brothers stick fighting group a few times, and I just started jiu-jitsu, really training jiu-jitsu, because that's what we were finding in stick fights, that the fight would go to the ground and then guys would get finished up quick if they didn't have a base on the ground. And so it really interested me. Anyway, and that was kind of my course with that. So anyway, I'm running this security group at this nightclub in the Southwest, and I get a call to come up front, and these 3 huge black guys are up there, and they go, hey, we need some white boys for this movie we're doing out at the prison. Santa Fe has a defunct prison. They rioted fascinating book called The Devil's Butcher Shop. It was written about the experience of the 80s riots at the Santa Fe prisons, of which they're overcrowded by like, maybe they had a 1,200 people there and they had a capacity for 800. It was something like that. The food was mold, the whole thing, and they rioted and they cut heads off, and it was a crazy deal. So anyway, that became a defunct prison. They built another maximum security behind it, and we just film movies in that prison now. That's where this was going down anyway.
What movie was it?
It was called Lockdown, and it's so these guys are work for Master P, and it's his production company. And he's making all these movies. So me and a couple of homeboys go out, we get this job. And that's where I got a SAG card. And it was great. It was fucking really fun. It was a cool thing to do. And I made a whole bunch of money. And the guy at the end of it, this guy, Keith Willard, he's a friend of mine now. Like, he's a guy that hired me on Equalizer also, 10 years later or whatever. And he didn't remember this at all. I was just a local guy in Santa Fe that was an actor that got this job that also did the stunts and I didn't know that. I was just having fun. I didn't know what stunts were. I didn't know there was differentiations. Anyways, he says, you should come out to LA and you should stay with me, man. You could really fucking run with this. And I was like, man, I just started doing this grappling stuff, and I really like competing all over. I was competing all over the country, and I was like, I'm just going to do that, man. Thanks though. Cause it seemed unrealistic. I'm like, I'm just a kid from Michigan to go be in the movies in LA. Like, that's whatever, I got a fat check right now. I'm cool. I only got to work one job and I can follow this dream I'm doing. And so that's kind of was the course that took. And then I did like a Nissan commercial. People would call sometimes, hey, you want to try out for this thing? And so I'd get a couple jobs like that, but I never looked after it at all. But that commercial interested me because I did like a day. They gave me like $350 to work for the day. I'm in a mud. I'm at, Ojo Caliente Hot Springs in Santa Fe, just north of Santa Fe, New Mexico. And there's a mud bath. And so the thing is, it's like Nissan Xterra, what a small world it is. And these people go from New York and Topeka, Kansas, and all these places, and they stop all these places and they see people from the city that they know throughout all these stops. I'm at the stop. I come up in a cowboy hat out of the mud and I'm like, hey, you live in my building. And they're like, hey, what are you doing? And so it's like that. But fuck, over the next 3 years, I keep getting checks that total like $25,000. And I was like, oh shit, this is, and so I had some benefit and some idea about like what that could look like if I chased it. I just never thought about it again. I ran that whole course as an athlete instead. And then I was teaching jiu-jitsu at my gym in Santa Fe one day, and this guy, Darren Prescott, comes up, and we start talking about that first experience with Keith Willard, and Darren falls in love with jiu-jitsu. And so we train jiu-jitsu this whole time. He's filming this show called Paul, which is about an alien with Simon Pegg. And he goes, oh, fuck, my buddy Keith. And I was like, what a trip that it's that connected. And that's what a small world this is. So anyway, I go out and I start working for him. Then I work on Red Dawn. And then I work, they asked me to come out and audition for this thing. Not audition. I get a text from a guy that I worked on Red Dawn with, which was a friend of Darren's, and Chris O'Hara is his name. And Chris says, hey, I need you to come out and be in downtown LA tomorrow night at 8:00. Can you be there to meet and greet these directors? They want to get a look at these guys for this potential part. And I go, yeah, sure. And that's all I knew, because I was done fighting. I was bodyguarding. I hated it. I didn't hate it, but it was like I'd grown to a place where I'm like, I'm living somebody else's life, man, and I got to live my own life as a man. I just had to take a departure from that for my own psyche. It's kind of the same way when I stopped working security at the club. It was a lot of that was because I didn't like the us and them aspect of it. The job started to change me, so I had to choose a different job, because I didn't like the way it was directing my psyche. So anyway, I think it's important to be proactive with your fucking life and not be a victim of wherever it's at.
Could I ask you a question?
Please,
about, like,
go ahead.
Security.
Yeah, interrupt anytime.
No, I don't want to interrupt, because you're like my dream guest. I just say something, you just go with it. Is it like
I'm content filler?
But I love it, man. People don't want to hear me. At this point, this is the 300th episode, by the way.
Your voice, yeah, it's a lot.
For me, it is.
Yeah, for me too.
Is security guys almost like cops, where the 5% are bad? Like, I would imagine.
I had a very high standard with the guys that I worked with. I taught them all what was acceptable ways to have
De-escalate.
any encounter before it became physical, and we would run scenarios every week with that. We would deconstruct the night, even overnights where there was something that happened and everything went great, nobody got hurt, it was de-escalated perfectly. Where could we have done it better? I was always pushing the guys to go, where could we have done this better? They're like, well, nothing happened. Everything is cool. Well, how about we didn't even get into it? Could we have avoided it? Like, and that was the thinking. And I think if you don't tax men with thinking about how to have a higher standard, well, you're going to get the fucking result of you not caring what the standard is. And so I just tried to set a high enough tone. And in my standard, I'd be like, you can't sell dope here. You can't fuck girls on the job.
Well, I'm out.
I know, what a drag, right? But like, dude selling coke at the back door one night, and I don't have a overabundance of staff. I have enough staff to run the place. And we got a big hip hop night coming up. It's going to be busy. I need all my staff. I got to fire this dude. And my boss was like, can you wait till after Friday night or whatever? And I was like, it either means something or it doesn't. Right. And I just knew that I go, nature abhors a vacuum. There's something will come in to fill this space. But if I don't excise this tumor from us right now, we're all going to get sick. And so that's just how I was, just like that with it. I was very strategic about having a sustainable culture there. And that had to be from people reaching towards a high level and having the openness to be able to speak freely about whatever and to all share certain standards. And if I wasn't going to say the standards to those people and draw it out in a very particular way, then I couldn't be upset if they, hit the wrong mark.
But like in the security world, I would imagine there are some, probably not many, who just want to kick ass. Is that?
I'm sure, but in my place, you don't see that. If people, that's insecurity, right? And so it just doesn't jive. When I'm asking you to have standards, it doesn't jive with insecurity. It doesn't speak to your ego boosting. It speaks to, we're in a job of service to make sure everybody's safe here. And even people that act out of line because they're hammered or whatever, they're still safe here. That's the thing about this cop shit. It's like, I've arrested a lot of people. I don't know, 100 people maybe in my life, put handcuffs on, wait for citizen's arrest in that job. And the thing I know is that once I put my hands on you, I own your body.
Yeah, I've had your hands put on me.
But if you fall down and you hurt yourself, that's on me. Like, if I take you under my custody, I'm responsible for your health, right? Like, I need to make doubly careful that you're safe. And so anyway, that's why it was different.
But are those people, I guess, easy to spot? Like,
for me, yeah.
Like, you see a guy and what's like an indicator? Okay, this.
I can see a guy walk in a room and know what he's up to. You work a job like that long enough, you get an eye for who everybody is. You've been a watcher and you're trying to forecast problems before they happen. And so you start to see the future sometimes and shit, you can predict what people are up to. You can predict what they're going to say next to get out of something, because people get under pressure of, like, if you can't come into the door because you're hammered, I don't know. You learn how to be clear.
By the way, I did not see your Red Dawn because of
Hemsworth.
Well, no. Who, by the way, is playing Hulk Hogan, which I'm very interested in. Breaking news: Chris Hemsworth will be Terry Bollea, or for you wrestling freaks, Hulk Hogan. And this kind of gets me into the cast.
What kind of storyline is that going to be? Are they going to do the sex tape and the whole thing, or the disaster, or only the high days, or what?
I don't know. Todd Phillips is doing it. So
wow, he's brilliant.
And former Inappropriate Earl alumni guest Eric Bischoff is that's Hulk Hogan's best friend. He used to run WCW. Only person to go up against WWF. I just can't call them WWE. And beat them for 2 years in the ratings. He was the genius.
Why can't you call him WWE? What's the distinction?
Well, they got sued by the World Wildlife Federation. We copied.
That's why the WWF changed?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And now it's World Wrestling Entertainment, but I'm sorry, it's WWF to me.
I can see why he is kind of heartless and shitty then sometimes to people, because it's like, this is what I'm up against, this kind of idiocy.
But you could be in that movie. I might be helping you with a gig right now.
Thank you so much, man.
Well, I said might be.
I thought you said you had some power.
No.
You're from a royal family in America.
Well, my thing is with the Hulk Hogan movie, and it gets into...
Would you have gone on the plane with Epstein? A guy like you, it seems like...
Well, I love women, but my women were all of age. A lot of my girlfriends, a lot of people, like Chandler, my current love of my life is 24 years
Let's
younger
not call her
than me.
your current love of your life. Let's call her your love of your life.
Well, yeah, but it's current.
Right. Yeah. But as if it's a passing thing is how you say
No,
it.
I didn't mean it like that. I just
Or like there's been so many before. Well,
Well, I
maybe you
mean-
should honor that.
I can't help it. I'm like the Colonel. I'm the Colonel in Boogie Nights, baby. But like,
It makes me feel a lot better because when I went and pissed earlier and I looked in the trash can and there's tampons in there.
that was mine.
Yeah, I thought it was.
My ass was bleeding.
Well, that's not.
But a lot of people think Chandler has daddy issues, and that's not true.
I feel like
it's actually her uncle.
I'm
who fucked her.
uncomfortable a little
Hello.
bit. I wonder when you start forcing a conversation and then I got to remember you're trying to do a joke.
Well, I was trying, but you interrupted.
No.
But,
Yeah.
But here's the thing with casting, and I'm glad you're here on this. Like, I'm a huge wrestling fan, especially from when Hulk Hogan was in his prime. And, like an iconic match in Hulk Hogan's life, other than the Iron Sheik, which is when he won the belt. But the match that really put him over the top was in WrestleMania 3 when he body slammed Andre the Giant. And he said right before that, Andre whispered into his ear, "Let's take it home. I'm giving you the torch." And that was such an iconic moment in his life. Who plays Andre the Giant? Like, you need a guy who was, I know it's CGI.
Well, I think that you got to have something like the Big Show right? Like,
yeah, that's, Andre the Giant was legit, I think 7'2", 7'3". They might have fudged a little bit on his height, but he was over 7 feet.
all those guys too, like that are tall like that are huge. Like,
Who do you?
they don't live very long either.
Well, and Andre the Giant's life was that documentary. Did you see the HBO?
I didn't.
It was really sad. Like, the minute his body started breaking down, the WWF just said, "Beat it. Here's our new guy, Hogan." And then when Hogan started like diminishing, they brought in the Ultimate Warrior, which didn't work. But and then Warrior was like, "All right, you're gone. We'll get Owen Hart." And then
He died young too, the Warrior. He lived in Santa Fe. I would see him at the gym sometimes.
he's my favorite of all time.
Yeah. Cool guy.
Well, he was the only one really to stand up to Vince McMahon. He might say he was wrong in some of the ways he did it, but there's the famous.
I just never knew what was real though. Either is that a con that they're all doing together? You don't.
Well, with him, I think he was real. Like,
Right.
He was Warrior in and out of the ring, and I kind of respect that. Like, he went rogue, and what was it? I think it was SummerSlam or Survivor Series, where he was supposed to wrestle, I believe, Sid Vicious. And, Sid Vicious goes out there, and then Warrior's standing waiting for his music to play, and he just turns to Vince McMahon, who's in what they call the gorilla position, which is where all the monitors are, and so he can, give
Direct.
feedback. Yeah. And he looks at Vince and goes, "I need $1 million more, or I'm not going out there." And Vince had to give it to him. Like,
How is that a binding contract?
well, I think Warrior seems like a very persistent guy, so I think he got the money, and then the WWF cut him. Like,
Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. I like guys like that who stick up. I
don't know. To do it on the day like that doesn't seem
not
right.
even on the day, but on the
righteous to me. It's like, I don't know.
Well, it's like
I understand that you're increasing your leverage point, but there's something about saying that I'll do this job and the job is built. It's like the pay scale in that job is the protocol that it is,
By the way, we have 1 minute left on the Instagram live.
Oh,
That's
shit.
how long we've gone. Tait Fletcher. Well,
How long is that? What's the Instagram
this
live
is
do? An
like,
hour?
I think it's like 50 minutes to an hour. So,
Well, thank you all. It was really great to be here.
At Tait Fletcher on everything.
At Tait Fletcher on everything and Caveman Coffee.
Yes.
And you can go ahead and see me on Waco right now, or you can, which is on Netflix. What else is on right now? Mandalorian is on Disney Plus.
And Westworld. If you go back a
Westworld is
little bit.
HBO.
And,
yeah.
we're going to finish up on Apple Podcasts, so you got to listen to the rest, guys. Thank you, Instagram Live. It's like a little teaser.
It's a 50-minute teaser.
But like, so I guess the Big Show would play Andre the Giant. But there's also
I wonder. I mean, who else is? I mean, maybe there's somebody else. Some unknown we don't know yet. You know.
I mean, maybe. Well, the Great Khali, who
it would have to be a big basketball player, maybe.
I mean, the Great Khali is that Indian guy.
Yeah, Darjeet.
But he doesn't look like Andre the Giant. I mean,
no, not at all.
Like
but you could do stuff with him. I mean, but I don't know if he's still healthy. He was in the longest yard with me.
Right. I mean, he'd be about the only other guy, and he's too muscular, I think.
He's so ripped. I mean, last time I saw him, he was fucking shredded.
But
he's one of those guys too, 7 feet tall and 400 pounds and like tissue paper skin almost.
And you'd have to find someone to play Ultimate Warrior, but he was not smaller guy.
He was smaller
in terms of height, but
6 feet tall or 5'11" or something like that, maybe.
Well, I met him once, and it was a religious experience.
Really? He's a very terse man. Like he was.
Well, there's
very stern, serious kind of.
I lucked out because there was at the time a record shop on Sunset. It was a very bizarre autograph signing, where it was at this record shop. And I guess his manager at the time owned the record shop. So they had an Ultimate Warrior signing. And of course, I'm like last in line out of like 200, 300 people. And my buddy at the time was his entertainment lawyer. And he said, Earl, you don't really want to meet him. He can be kind of prickly. And, you know.
Don't get your heroes ruined kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I said, fuck it. When am I ever going to be in a room with the Ultimate Warrior again? And I waited. I'm last in line. They're closing up. They lead me up this stairs. Curtain blocking the stairs. He's in full makeup, full like the arm tassels, and I've never been so starstruck in my life.
It's quite a scene to come out to that. I mean, that's like got to be a vision.
It was like meeting Superman.
Yeah,
and he couldn't have been nicer.
Really?
I was so scared. I was just looking at his boots. And he would be like, Earl, nice to meet you. Thank you for coming out. Do you want an autograph? I'm like, yes, Mr. Warrior. And I couldn't look at him. I was just, would you like a T-shirt? I'm like, oh, I didn't buy one. I just bought the posters. Like, get this guy a T-shirt. Thank you, Mr. Warrior. And so, I'm interested to just.
That's so cool.
Oh, it was. It made me, a bigger fan. But I've met some people I admire that, weren't the nicest. So, like you said, don't meet your heroes. It might.
Though, it's like the guys that think about it right. Like going around, I used to bodyguard Joe. And one of the things he said, I remember we were at Mohegan Sun. It's for UFC. And there's random people. There's nothing like it. It got to be. But there's, random people come up and interject at dinner or wherever. And I'm just excited. I mean, it's just, I'm seeing a whole different world than I've ever seen. And I go, does it ever get old to you though? Or like, does it feel like, an imposition? Like you're fucking nice to
he really is.
He's so fucking kind to everybody that comes up in the most inconvenient places where it's like, this rude that they're coming up right now. He fucking is gracious every fucking time. And I was like, does it ever, he goes, bro, I love to be able to perform for what I do. He says, what I get paid to do is to interact with the public. This is the only time they maybe, it's what it is, man.
And he's like that at the
and I'm grateful to do it. And he's like that everywhere, and that's just mindset. It's like how people decide they're going to be, I think at some point people go, what do I want to leave people with? Do I want to, leave them better or worse than I came? It's just like that thing about the park in all the national parks where it says, leave only footsteps and take only memories. And it's like we should do that with the folks that we meet in life is, leave goodness there. It's like, why do we leave a public bathroom wrecked? Why don't we leave everywhere a little better, and leave people a little better? And really, it was really interesting. It's just interesting talking about it right now. It's just dawning on me to reflect back. Like Joe really instilled that in me in a lot of ways. Like it's really an amazing way and until you're under the pressures of having all those people come, you don't know how you'll fucking deal with that. Like, no, it's really funny, man.
Well, it's also like, I'm assuming you were his, I guess you could say bodyguard because you get the 5% of the fans who are.
It's really just so I'm the guy that's the buffer. That's like, no, we got to go, and I can, and he doesn't have to be the guy that does that. Right? It's like that was most of what the job was.
But I mean, I'm sure I can only imagine just because Joe's very open with his fitness and jujitsu and his MMA abilities that you get that one dick. Oh, you think you're tough, Rogan, Mr. UFC? Let's see it. Like,
he's so deft at dealing with people, though. I mean, he's and also capable. And thank goodness that he's so marketed as being capable that not a lot of people want. And also, it's ridiculous. It's like, I'm not going to be drawn into a fucking fight with you, dummy. Like, not, you know.
Also, financially, it's
just not around people like that. Doesn't make any sense on any level. Stop it. Stop.
He's got,
go train jujitsu. Take care of your ego, silly.
Right. But I mean, you know, I know guys that they always want to prove how tough they are. No, let's see how tough Rogan or his bodyguard is, and you know, Joe can get sued.
It's all that, and that's. I mean, working in the securities industry for a long time, I'd always have to think of that of how, you know, how are we going to avoid any litigation? Like, I'm not going to blow somebody's nose out or something or leave them disfigured in some way. It's like once I touch them, I need to be in control of them and of their safety. You know, that's where I'm trying. That's what you're trying to do anyway. Because if you work for high level people, you're inviting a lawsuit if you're interacting. If you got to the point where there's physical contact, you've made some errors probably.
Well, it must be weird though, especially like if you guys were at a UFC or some kind of MMA function, maybe a jiu-jitsu tournament or something. You figure, well, everyone's who's here probably has some level of skill of fighting. Like,
right.
It's a little scary.
Not at UFC, but at jiu-jitsu tournaments for sure. It's probably the most skilled crowd there is, right? At jiu-jitsu tournament, because it's just fans and family of jiu-jitsu guys.
Right. I mean, I don't think there's too many people
participants
who go to a jiu-jitsu tournament who aren't on some level a practitioner.
Skilled, yeah. It's so, and that's right. It's so great in that way because it takes care of a lot of that silliness. Well, what are we doing now?
Now we're going on Facebook Live. God, I mean, I'm a one-man operation, bro. I mean,
right.
Well, I'm trying.
Why do we got spotlights on? Is it we need it, huh?
I'm trying.
I don't know what. Sponsored by Dita, so the sunglasses.
I wish I was sponsored
and
by
also
Dita.
Because you've got this micro flashlight pointed at me right now.
Is something wrong? Oh shit! It's hold on. Sorry about that.
It's all right.
But this is what happens when you're one-man operation. Like you don't.
Well, I admire the.
I'm trying, man. I don't know what's
I admire
going
the
on.
hustle. 300 episodes. That's a steady go. I stopped my Pirate Life podcast. I just couldn't do it. You know, I hurt myself last year. And so I just haven't really been able to get it together to have much ambition to do that.
Well, I think I enjoy doing this still. And frankly, it's a great way to get fans, like, you know, who don't know who I am, which is most people.
How's that working?
I have like a cult following, I guess you'd say.
You guys got a handshake or anything, or
the Earl-omaniacs, or
Earl-maniacs they call them?
It's like Hulkamaniacs.
Earl.
Now you've got the Earl-omaniacs.
Now is Earl one word, or are there hyphens involved?
It's EARLA maniacs, all one word.
I would do it EARL-A- maniacs.
I'm doing what I can, Tait.
I just gave you a better way to do it, though.
Well, this might be the last episode, to be honest with you.
Do you have an Earl of Maniac t-shirt I could get?
I have no merchandise.
That's weird.
I don't want to be that comic who sells merch.
I feel like
nobody knows who they are.
I feel like you're leaving money on the table.
Well, I'm not in this business for money. I enjoy doing comedy.
It's called business.
No, you're right. Show business.
Well, it has a connotation of money in it, right? You just said I'm not in this business for money, but
I genuinely.
You don't charge for your services because you dig it.
I don't. For this podcast, to be honest with you, 300 episodes in, I've never made $1 other than my Mike Knuckles by Stephen Pearson.
I like those a lot.
So
does he use those when he sings?
He does.
Yeah.
And if you watch the new Geico commercial, he has a pair on.
Has he ever laid it on somebody?
I don't think at this point of his life, the singer from Rat's looking to get into too many fights.
How big is he? I'm going to wait. He's 5'6" and he's 148 pounds.
I would say he's probably about 5'10".
Okay. And he's then if he's 5'10", he's 148 pounds.
Maybe. The biggest guy in Rat is
drummer.
No, unfortunately, is the guy who died of AIDS.
Warren DeMartini?
No, the other guitar player. You talk about a guy with money. Robin Crosby is my favorite. Of course, I always like the ones who die. My favorite guy in the Village.
Why, of course?
Well, it's like my favorite guy in the Village People was the leather guy, Glenn Hughes. He died.
How's that your favorite guy?
I just like the way he looked. Big. He was bigger than everyone else. He was like,
So you admired the guys in that sang the YMCA, the Village People?
yeah.
And so those
How old are you?
48.
Okay, I'm 51.
I guess I just missed that because they were just, I remember the Village People, but I think I was too little to think of like.
Well, they had a short run, but for about 1 year, they were the biggest band in the world.
Yeah. That was around Dorothy Hamill, right? Dorothy Hamill times, the figure skater.
That was.
Is it 78? Something like that?
Well, it's funny. They were on the same record label as Kiss.
And that's when Star Wars came out.
Donna Summer. I would say their prime was probably 78 to 79.
Mm-hmm.
And then they do one bad movie with Bruce Jenner at the time. Bruce Jenner.
Does Bruce Jenner exist still?
Called Can't Stop the Music, which was.
Or does Bruce Jenner cease to exist when Caitlyn Jenner begins? Do you know the protocol for that?
I don't want to get in trouble.
Well, we wouldn't want to start controversy.
No. To me, and this is just how.
If I'd have told you 20 years ago that there were going to be other genders than male and female, you would have probably thought I was nuts.
I mean,
but now look at us. I told you so.
As long as he has his pee-pee, he's Bruce Jenner to me.
Does he or not?
I don't know. But like my one friend, Fifi Dosh.
Who's a transsexual?
He's transitioning.
Does he like to be called he, like what you just did? Okay, so let's not make that mistake.
It's a force of habit. Like when she first told me.
I understand. I have a friend, Angus, that's the same way, that used to be a Bernadette. And it's troubling for me because Bernadette was my best friend. We lived together and all that. And so sometimes I still go, hey, B. And then I'm like, fuck. But we're all learning. I guess we do the best we can, you know.
Shout out to a chiropractic superstar, Drew and Hugh Gordon. They are chiming in.
God, thank you guys so much for all the chiropractic. I need to get my head adjusted because when I got knocked out last year, they said maybe your inner ear you can do a chiropractic adjustment for the inner ear. Are you hip to that?
Well, when the Gordon brothers come back to LA, they took a sabbatical to Florida. I'll get you in touch.
Fantastic.
Let's get back to the Village People. Do you know only one of them was gay in real life?
What about Louis Smolka, The Last Samurai?
Now we're watching UFC prelims on right now.
These guys look like they're 12.
So let's get back into acting for a second.
Okay.
And then we're going to watch, Well,
let's segue. Go ahead. Let's not talk about it. Let's make it easy. Do this thing.
Well, I mean, we talk about Hulk Hogan casting. I could see you as a wrestler, maybe Hillbilly Jim. Hulk Hogan had a program with him.
Okay.
So call your agent, get on board. How cool was it to be in The Mandalorian? My heart blew out of my chest when Chandler's like, "Let's watch The Mandalorian." I'm a Star Wars guy. Mm-hmm. I'm a Chewbacca guy, but I always liked
Chandler. What did Chandler know about? Because she wasn't born at a time when she could have appreciated the first Star Wars the way we did.
Well, she
right. I mean, like, I don't know how younger kids are exposed to Star Wars, but for when I got exposed to Star Wars as a 7-year-old or whatever, it was fucking mind bending. I mean, and to think that it still stands up. That's made with miniatures. It's not CG. It's not any of the bullshit. And it's crazy good. It's so good.
The asteroid fields were potatoes. I prefer the first three over
first three,
just because
I'm a first three guy myself.
There was a charm about them.
Yep,
and Darth Vader,
and there was a cohesiveness.
Yeah, I saw the last the Rise of Skywalker, and it just seemed like it was like that Guns N' Roses CD, Chinese Democracy, where you could tell that album was 20 guitar players. 18 drummers. It was very disjointed. You could tell each song.
I never even knew that Chinese Democracy actually came out.
That was the first album.
It was a thing that got dick teased for like 15 years.
Right. And it finally came out.
It did.
And it was just very much Axl Rose, and almost every song was a different set of musicians. That's what the Rise of Skywalker felt to me. It was like, well, we didn't use this. We got to placate the older fans, so we'll put Chewbacca in this, and we'll Lando Calrissian, even though he doesn't really have a lot to do with the storyline, we'll jam him in there, and then Chewbacca. I think they did an early test screening of Chewbacca 9, and then
nobody wants that.
The fans went nuts, and so then they shoehorned it where, when Chewbacca went on the ship and it blew up, he was on another ship. That if you watch that scene, there was no other ship.
Mm-hmm.
And I realize I'm overanalyzing a fake movie, but it's like they did stuff like that where it's like,
No, it's a real movie.
Well, I got into this discussion with Tom Segura and Christina Pazitsky
and what they
wrestling
say?
Being fake.
Oh, that's a layered, nuanced conversation.
Oh, absolutely. We don't have to get into that now, but like that was my point of because he caused quite a bit of ruckus with his opinion on wrestling and if it's real and whatnot. And I think me, Tony Hinchcliffe, Ron Funches, and Steve Simone were brought on in our own individual segments to go, no, it's not fake. It's I was like, dude, you still watch the movie Predator? You think there's an actual alien?
Well,
killing?
that's what's clear. When I only went once Monday night here in LA, and it was fucking amazing, man. It was phenomenal to go to see it. And I talked to a friend. I saw French Skylar Aston's across the way. It's crazy the amount of CT Fletcher was there sitting next to me. It was really wild, but it's like a lowbrow theater or something. It's like this that you're really engaged in. And then the audience is another actor almost within it. And fuck, man, it was fantastic, dude. It was the most fun I'd had in a long time.
But I was like, I don't think it's fake. And then
no, Jesus Christ. I mean, you talk about those guys. You watch the Big Show go up onto the third rung of the turnbuckle and go to jump on a guy's shoulders and then flip. Like, it's fucking highly acrobatic with huge fucking men. Like, it's crazy. So as far as real, like, it's real. But then I asked those guys, I go, how choreographed are you when you go out? Do you like clearly like you rehearse this? And he's like, we rehearse a bunch of moves that we all know. And then we know where it ends up at the end, but we figure it out in the midst of it. And you think about what kind of a unity and togetherness that is to create that result. It's fucking beautiful, man. What an art form.
Well, I think,
and then did you see what Tony showed, the wrestling show there? You were there.
I was there.
But, what's his name? David
Arquette.
Holy shit. How good is he?
He's really gotten into, I don't know if I'd say he's quit acting and got into pro wrestling.
He's fantastic, bro.
Well, he's a fan. So I think he respects the business.
He's more than a fan because he's attuned his instrument. I mean, he's really fucking skilled. He's athletic as fuck. And he's as an actor, like his performance is incredible. What a treat to see that. That was fantastic.
Well, it's funny you say acting because I think that the wrestlers of our era, Piper, Hogan, Warrior, Big John Studd, I mean, we can name 1,000, are better actors than the guys who do it now. Because I don't believe what they do now.
Right.
Like, obviously, I know it's scripted.
What about the girls? The girls' storyline is way different.
The girls, obviously, Charlotte Flair, his dad is Rick. She comes from a wrestling pedigree. To me, they look like fitness models who are doing choreographed moves.
What about the girl that was doing anal with all the sex toys and all those videos went viral?
Well, that's another video. That's another podcast.
I think it's interesting that she maintained a career like that. I thought that was beautiful that stuff was able to be out and she wasn't like ridiculed to the point of oblivion, which would have happened maybe 10 years ago with this culture.
Well, there are some people who have done porn who went mainstream, but it's few and far between.
We're not going to call it. Would you call that porn?
I don't watch porn.
Because wasn't the stuff I saw was an interaction between her and her boyfriend or something, and maybe he sent. I don't know what happened exactly. Well, I don't know why I was privy to these videos.
You must be talking about something else I didn't see. But Seth Rollins said he had some dirty pictures leaked, and it certainly hasn't hurt his career. I don't really watch it today. I think I sound old saying this, but I really believe that what we saw in our generation was so much better than, now it's just, they rush the storylines and like back in the day, like when Hogan fought Sting.
You couldn't walk out with a sock puppet on your hand.
Stuff like that. And although Mankind, Cactus Jack, he's suffered some crazy injuries, I don't know. I think the internet ruined wrestling for me.
How's that?
Well, I've told this story 1,000 times on the podcast, and it's a joke I do. It's like I thought wrestling was real till I met Kamala backstage, and he told me his name was Jim, and he's from Mississippi, and I was like, oh, I really thought
It's weird that he let the veil down like that.
Well, I really thought he was from Uganda because there was no internet. I couldn't in 1980. Google or Wikipedia James Kamala Harris, which is funny that he has the same name as the politician, and go, oh, he's from Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Oh, he's not from Uganda. And Abdullah the Butcher, and I have my Abdullah the Butcher doll right over there. Look over there, just to the left. It's the
okay.
I really thought Abdullah the Butcher was from the Sudan, and he was just some madman.
He's from Pennsylvania.
Turns out his name is Larry, and he's from Windsor, Ontario. So it's ruined it in that regard.
You know what it ruined that for me was when I found out it was a loyalty issue for me. When I found out that the Detroit Red Wings were not comprised of Michigan natives, I was out.
Well, yeah, if you were to have an NHL team with just people from Michigan.
It seemed to mean something to me. And as I grew up and thought about justice, that's what I thought would be righteous. And then I was like, it's not that way at all. And a lot of them, not even Americans.
Well, I like my favorite story in those veins is Brett Hull, who was Canadian, born Canadian. He didn't make the Canadian Olympic team, and he was pissed. And he's like, oh, okay, you guys don't want me? Well, I'm going to get an American citizenship, and I'm going to play for Team USA. And then they won the World Cup with him, who should have been with the Canadians.
It's amazing.
So before we wrap up, when you did The Mandalorian, was there any feeling on the set of this is going to be big?
Oh, yeah.
Like, how do you know? Like,
when they say it's George Lucas's Star Wars, when you get those emails, it's like, it's fucking crazy, bro. And then, so I played 2 roles. Played the opening scene, which was phenomenal. Like that to have that whole scene be pivoted off of me. I'd never really been in that position before, and it was fucking great. I get to speak another language on the whole thing. But then I'd gotten called. I knew I was going to do another job besides just that, and that I was being suited for this heavy Mando, which it came to be. And that was a whole nother thing. And then Favreau was a heavy Mando in the animated series. And so he wanted to do that, but wasn't able to on the scene for the show. And so he did the voiceover for that character that I played physically.
Well, they really should have called me in for that role.
And for your voice.
I'm very fucking jelly. But now I'm trying to get work on this podcast. Waco. You were from the Earl Skakel School of Acting there. You were in like 8 episodes and had one line, very similar to my I'm Dying Up Here role.
What was my line?
They asked you if you drank.
Okay.
And I'm not going to lie to you. They should fire the boom operator on that scene because for me it was a little inaudible.
There's mumbles.
Was that the line?
I don't know.
It's something like, no, I didn't. Or it was very quick.
Right.
Kind of like my line in Benchwarmers when I opened up the porta potty door and said, hey, who did this?
I haven't seen Benchwarmers.
Black guy did the voiceover.
Seriously?
Tough business. One line. You think they would have kept my voice in.
God damn.
Waco, was it fun? Was it exhausting?
Oh, man, it's cool. And it's a trip to see it because being on that show was interesting because the FBI interrogator, he was there. That was at Waco at the scene was also on our film. He was one of the advisors. And then also one of the advisors was a guy that was played by Rory Culkin. And Rory played...
He was amazing.
The drummer, right? Okay, so you know the character I mean. And so that guy was also on the scene. And it's weird because you're around that FBI guy. You're around a cop. Like that's a Fed for a long, and he's retired for a long time now, but you're around a cop. Like it's,
who was there?
Yeah. He's like full, he brings all the tension. Right. And a cool guy, nice guy and all that, but just about his shit. And then there's this guy that, he'd fled from the fires and he was there and he's, I don't know, a shorter guy that's like, suffering from obesity, like he's 400 pounds or something like that, not in a good way, 5'6" or something. And he's suffered from this as a survivor, I think, in ways that, so anyway, it was a trip to be around and to be able to behold that in America. For me as an American, I was at an age when that all was going on and militias were coming up. People were trying to teach people how to hunt deer, how to, secede from the nation, like how to be sovereign, how to do your taxes better, how to really administer the Bill of Rights and the Constitution and all that. And that's what militias were back then. And then the Randy Weaver stuff happened. I'd never heard of a white separatist. That term didn't exist before then, but that's when it came up. They called Randy Weaver, who was I think he's a Force Recon Marine or some spec ops guy from Virginia or somewhere. And he just wanted to move with his family and live after he got out of the service. And then, so they called him a white separatist. He didn't have any racial, there was no groups he was aligned with. There was none of that kind of stuff. It was just him and his family. They go up, they murder his family, right? And then William Free of the FBI, that was the head of that thing, they had to get out from under it. Bill Clinton's going to take away all the funding from that. All that shit was going on. ATF was about to be defunded. And then they go, oh shit, here's this crazy guy in Waco. And a thing that they could have just did a knock and serve warrant. And the sheriff suggested that. The feds are like, we got this. And they go in there with tanks and shit. And they kill a couple dogs right when they came up. They came up in full battle material. I mean, we watched it unfold on TV over all those days. It was fucking crazy in America. And then Oklahoma City happened after that. And then it was the complete vilification of anything with the militia. And that got shut out of the conversation in America. I mean, to me, all this stuff that I've been watching since I'm a little kid is a continuation of the escalation of power and control that the government is trying to extol over its citizens. It was the first time in American history, and it's unconstitutional to put a militarized force against its citizens. And Waco is where the government busted that cherry against its citizens. So it was an interesting thing for me to be a part of because I had a lot of feelings about it in all the ways. And then I also think, as an aside, which is interesting, is that Bradley Branch, it's just like these kids, right? Kill 23 people in a church, kill all these people in a school. Man, do you have enough water, sir? Are you okay? Like everybody treats them with kid gloves. But this guy, for forging a check, or if he even did, like, it's like we murder people for that. Brad Branch murdered federal agents. He gunned them up. And he's free today, which is a trip, right? Like it's like the discrepancy of the way we treat people is phenomenal in this country. And I'm sorry that I keep coming back to this broken record, but holy fuck, I can't get it out of my head.
I mean, it's, no, don't apologize at all. It's,
Anyway, a lot of stuff I just reflect on, and then we sit and we wait. And I think, you keep your breath going and you watch your breath in times like this and you see where the world turns out, because maybe you as a comic or somebody as a bartender or as a physical trainer, a coach somewhere, you're maybe not going to want to do that in the world that comes up, because now we're not going to be in places together. It seems like they're making all these infringements on the quality of our lives. And so now I'm just kind of waiting, going, well, what are they going to allow us to make money on? Because it seems like a crazy thing where I'm not allowed to make an income, like that's been taken from me for something that has a very small result as far as killing people in the country. It's not nearly what the PR made it out to be.
Yeah, it definitely seems like there's several sets of standards for.
It doesn't feel like we're not being attacked. I'll say that.
If Brad Branch was black,
it'd be a different story, baby. That's a wrap.
Either be dead or.
I can't believe that they burned up like 80 people. That's crazy.
I kind of forgot the story.
All they were doing was they were buying up weapons at like gun shows and shit, right? And so they had all these. The ATF had all these numbers of these people at this address with all these guns. So it looked like they were stockpiling guns.
But what about the underage stuff?
But it's layered. So they would take the guns and they would resell them. So they didn't have a stockpile of guns. They had a bunch of guns and they would make money for their commune by buying and selling guns. That was part of what they did. And so what they were going to go up and do the knock on the door for was to go, hey man, we need to check all these guns, make sure they're kept safe, make sure the records are good. And that was it. It was a regular citizen's check, but they come in with helicopters and tanks. So, and about the kid stuff, the way that all got layered up was like, he was like any of these crazy, I'm not trying to say that David Koresh was a good guy. cult leader, and he talked these simps out of their wives and would say, that's my wife now. And he'd have babies with them and shit. And then I think one of his wives, he did their younger sister or something like that. There was a girl that was like 15 that he'd impregnated. And then unless she was married to somebody, then that would be the legalese through which they would get him. But if she were married to somebody, it would be, or something like that. And so it was like that kind of thing they were coming in. But it's like, I mean, it's like the thing about saying, well, you shouldn't run from the police and they wouldn't shoot you. It's like it doesn't warrant you burning down, 70, 80 men, women, and children. Like, that's fucking asinine. But then there's some discussion about who did start that fire. And
the FBI said they didn't use incendiary devices, and I guess a few of the witnesses who got out were like, no, they were incendiary.
Right. And even if you see a flashbang or something like that that can light a curtain on fire, I would think. I mean, all that spark and all that, it's not zero energy. You're putting energy into the room when you're throwing bombs into a room. I mean, fuck.
What else can you talk about? What's coming out next to the fan? The Earlomaniacs can become...
Earlomaniacs can start looking for a Jamie Foxx show. I think we're going to call it Power. I'm not sure on the final name yet, but that ought to be a Netflix release. Maybe in November, I think they'll be finished with it. I'm not sure. It depends. A lot of this stuff coming up, like...
Who knows?
I mean, the other thing is even if you opened up fully right now, how would you... I mean... You've already got such bad PR. People aren't going to want to go out. Even if we opened up fully right now, people would limit to the amount that they went out, and you're not going to be able to make your money anyway. I mean, it's like, it's a hard press we're in. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think it's time to draw it all in and wait and breathe and focus on where you can be helpful and try to look at the subtext.
Hollywood's on hold. Like, me and Chandler love the show on TNT, Animal Kingdom, and I think the new season they were filming. I think they got 3 or 4 episodes in. Now what?
Yeah, I was in this Jay-Z produced show, this cowboy show, and they stopped production right. I mean, we were balls deep in it.
Nobody knows.
So we hope to come back to that pretty soon, and making some of our own content, which will be coming out in the next little bit.
Tait,
but I'll let you
know find you on social media.
Find me at Tait Fletcher and Caveman Coffee. That's it.
Caveman Coffee. I just drank a full can of hibiscus tea. I was telling Tait for years, for the non-coffee drinkers, come up with something good. They have Caveman Coffee. Tait Fletcher's one of the best.
Thanks to the Earlomaniacs for bringing that hibiscus tea to light. I didn't even know we needed it until Earl got in my ear. So
Waco was fun. It was almost like an interactive show for me and Chandler to watch, because we were rooting for you in that one scene where you were shooting and you were moving rooms. It's like, oh man, this is the scene where he gets it. Like, there's no way in. It was fun to know someone, and it was weird. Kind of gay, but
love you, buddy.
I love you, dude, and thank you. You have an open invitation to come on the couch.
Well, I'm super excited that the UFC's on.
Please, no need to leave, but I'm going to end this podcast.
Yeah, why don't you get me some food?
Inappropriate Earl, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud. You can see me on an episode of Your Mom's House with Tom Segura, Christina Pazitsky. I think it was Wednesday, so check that out. And I love you all.